Welcome back to Everyday Economics, the podcast helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics, a production of America's Talking Network. And you can subscribe to all of our podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics, make a tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We're recording this episode on Friday, August 23rd. And joining me, as always, my personal hero, Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, you know all things economics. Why
I don't know about that.
You are.
I don't know about that.
You are the star of Everyday Economics. Every once in a while, you and I run into subject matter where, like, not that you and I are trying to debate or to argue, and when we do, it's of course civilly. But this initiative out in Oregon in the housing sector. Hacienda Community Development Corporation is getting a fair amount of attention this week because what they're reportedly doing is they're offering a $30,000 down payment assistance for eligible people through their Camino a Casa program. And the program itself, I think, is catching a lot of heat, and I will say right off the bat, justifiably so, because it's inherently discriminatory. I mean, that is only available to non-citizens. And, when you and I talked about the viability of this, when we talked about it, we talked about the viability of this program, right? Let alone, let's set aside for a second that, that you have to be a non-citizen, to be able to be eligible for this grant. But I mean, a $30,000 grant that the taxpayers fund, what's the real? Is there a real audience for this? Is that a possibility? I don't understand that. I mean, you still have to go get a mortgage.
You know something.
You can't use this towards the mortgage itself, right? So, yeah.
I don't see anything. I don't see, besides the stuff on social media, I don't see anything.
Yeah.
On the Hacienda Community Development website that says anything about lending to non-citizens. It is a Latino-led initiative that lends to Latino communities, predominantly low-income Latino communities. Nothing on their website, nothing in their documentation suggests that they're lending to non-citizens only, right? And so I think that, like, we have to be very careful to start with the nonsense that is on social
Well, that's
media.
fair. I mean, we want to get the story right.
And so,
remember,
remember the largest share of home buyers last year were Hispanic. The Hispanic population is growing very rapidly, and so there's nothing wrong with having programs that are focused on supporting low-income families on the demand side. Especially those who have been left behind. Hispanics are partly less likely to qualify for mortgage, mostly because their mortgage denial rates are higher. Some due to first, the fact that most Hispanics live in markets that are relatively more expensive, like on the coastal, in the coastal markets, but also because of a lack of, or at least a shorter credit history, et cetera. So the barriers are huge. Now, with that said, I think the biggest criticism to any kind of down payment assistance program,
let's go there, because I mean, I think that this is a more viable part of this conversation.
Yeah. Any criticism to any kind of down payment assistance program would come from the fact that without a large increase in supply, in the supply of housing, you are essentially putting more pressure on house prices,
right,
and worsening the affordability challenge, right?
This story is getting the heat that it's getting because of the nature of the program. The reality of it is, I mean, even based on the literature that's been shared, like on social platforms like X, this is like limited to like I think 21 families or something like that, right? So this is a $630,000 initiative, but I think the idea and why this is, I think a hot topic is whether this is, whether this is a legitimate way forward to accomplish something that you and I talk about a lot, which is, people realizing the American dream and being able to get into a home. Is this the right way to do it?
Well. I think first of all, I think that people just. I am not opposed to down payment assistance programs, so I want to just put that out there. But on their own, they do not solve the problem.
Right.
They
Okay.
need to be accompanied by a massive increase on the supplies, or at least an equal increase on the supply side.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't have enough homes to go around for everyone, supporting the demand side doesn't do anything. It makes things worse, in fact. You need to support the supply side just as much. So I just think that the criticism of Hacienda that we saw in the social media is unfounded. I think it's wrong. I think they were unfairly targeted. I think the program or programs were not even correctly characterized. And it's just a lot of nonsense on social media. Unfortunately, I think that if people were to complain about something, they should complain about the fact that we don't have enough on the supply side to be done. Focus on the supply side. And to be fair,
I think that's the right argument. I think that's the right argument.
And look, to be fair, there is some efforts on the supply side, right? We have some efforts. We have some programs out there, like we got the low income tax credit that is supposed to encourage builders to build more affordable housing. We have some efforts at the state level to deregulate, and make, to help with zoning laws and increase buildable land across the country. We have some efforts, even in California, right, which is, I think, the state that is kind of the biggest culprit, in my opinion, for restricting building. And so we're starting to see some movements in the right direction, but more is needed.
Yeah,
we know more is needed because look at the housing market, right? Look at those coastal markets that don't. By the way, Hispanics also tend to live so they live on the coasts, and they also live in Texas. You compare the coast to Texas, and you find out that home ownership rates are higher there because Texas is building housing at a more rapid pace,
right?
Faster to some extent, keeping up with the increase in demand for housing.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Austin, San Antonio. I'm talking about Houston, Texas, markets where you're seeing a big increase in housing supply to try to keep up with demand. So anyway, that's the story. I think, again, the criticism of Hacienda is terrible. It shouldn't be out there. People say whatever they want, but ultimately, I think it's not fair for people to go out and criticize an organization or program they know nothing about.
All right. Well, fair enough. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other quality podcasts at americastalking.com.